काय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयोः श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। So the last chapter, 6th sloka. Indriyanam pritak bhavam odesyaastamayo chayad pritak utpadyamananam matva dhirun shochati. The sense organs have a separate origin. They are products of the elements. That is what we were last discussing. They are from the Sukshma. So, first is the Atman or Brahman. From that, the Abhyakta or the unmanifested. And then in the Hiranyagarbha or the Mahat is in the sprouting. Abhyakta is like Bija. In the Mahat or Hiranyagarbha is just like the sprout. Then next is the creation. Then first all the Sukshma elements. Akash, first is Akasha is created. Akashat Vayuhu, Vayu Agnihi, Agni Apaha, Adbhya Prithivi. So this is a sequence. First all the Sukshma elements. From the Sukshma elements combining together, from them are the Manas, Buddhi, etc. Indriyas are all created. That's why in the Upanishad says the objects are superior to senses. That's why they were saying. Because it's from the Sukshma portion of these elements, the Indriyas are created. And then, so each Indriya has their own, they are corresponding organ. So, again it is like that. Each organ has its own specific domain, is functioning. It is from this sattva element, that element, like that. There are various where it's given. So, they are active when an individual is awake. They are idle when he is asleep. So, I said, what is the... So, one can see the limitation. Indriyas are, when you are asleep, even if they take away everything from you, you will not even know. So, they are active when he is awake, they are idle when he is asleep. Truly wise person knows that the self is independent of sense organs and is therefore no longer susceptible to sorrow. That we saw. Because, everything, all our functioning is from the Indriyas only. So, when the Indriyas are silent, then still we see that there is a self that is beyond that. So obviously the self is separate from the Indriyas, because in the Jagrat Avastha they are functioning. In the sleep, in the dream, they are absent, but the mind is functioning. In the deep sleep, even the mind is not functioning, but still the Atman is there, because now when you wake up, I slept well. Who says I slept well? For I did not sleep well. Whatever it is, that experience of the sleep is only one blankness. Still there is a feeling that there is something, some sakshi, some witness. Plus, so it is very clear that the Atman of the self is not the Indriyas, or it is different from the Indriyas. So our whole problem is we identify ourselves completely with this, thinking that we are the Indriyas, we are the body, we are the mind. That's why all this suffering. So when they become different, a truly wise person knows that self is independent of sense organs. Then there is such a person no longer is susceptible to sorrow. Because all that happens only in the world of senses. The sorrow, suffering, etc. Because the senses are functioning. Maniji, you cannot hear at all, absolutely. Then जितने भी गाली दें आप सुन नहीं पाएंगे, ना? However much people scold you or use abusive language, you cannot hear. So these are all, temporary. But then, in the permanent sense, if all these are totally absent in such a condition, obviously there is no question of any sorrow or suffering, because all the suffering is from the idea that Dehaviman, I am the body, I am the mind. That leads to all that, and because of that, we constantly suffer, dukkha and all that. When you are beyond that, there is no suffering, there is no dukkha. Then, Indriyabhya paro mano manasas sattvam uttamam sattvadapi mahanatma mato avyaktam uttamam. So again, he's trying to, what he said earlier, is only recapitulating for Nachiketa's benefit. He is doing a revision. The mind is superior to the sense organs. Obviously, because the sense organs can only bring all the information. It is up to the mind. If the mind is not there, then sense organs cannot function at all. That we saw several times. When there is right in front of you, somebody is there, you are not recognized. That means the mind is not there. So that is why mind, which controls all the sense organs, their experiences, so the mind is superior to sense organs. Then the intellect is superior to the mind, because the mind only can take all that. Final decision, मैं रसगुल्ला की खाऊंगा कि नहीं, only the buddhi, only the knowledge can say, oh, how good it is, how bad it is, diabetes badega ki ghatega, all that. Then accordingly the buddhi decides. So naturally the buddhi is superior, intellect is superior to the sattvam uttamam. Here they are calling it sattvam. Sattvat mahan atma adi. Superior intellect is the great self. Again, Hiranyagarbha or the Mahat, which is the cosmic intelligence. Where now buddhi is the individual intelligence or the individual intellect. Mahat or Hiranyagarbha is the cosmic aspect. Obviously that is superior to individual, because individual is only one, whereas the collective intelligence, the entire creation, obviously that is superior. And then also avyaktam mahata uttamam, the unmanifest Prakriti or Maya or the Avyakta, that is superior to the Hiranyagarbha or the Mahat. So again he's just kind of tracing the chronology or the evolution, hierarchy. So then finally we will say that is again is coming. Avyakta tu paraha purushaha vyapako linga evacha yam yatva muchyati janma mrit jantuhu amrtatvam sagacchati. Vyapaka alinga iva cha purusha. Vyapaka alinga eva cha purusha. The being who is all pervasive and formless. Linga means murti or form. Alinga is formless. Vyapaka is all pervasive. Purushaha, this Purusha is Vyapaka Alinga, which is Avyaktat Para. This Purusha, all pervasive and formless, is, if anyone, Avyakta is superior to the Avyakta or the unmanifest. And then Yam yatva muchyate jantuhu amrtatvam cha gacchati. Knowing him, if anyone knows it, is liberated from the cycle of birth and death and attains immortality. So again it says the ultimate goal of life is to know one's true identity. What is one? If you know that you are the Atman, then slowly you saw in the evolution how it is superior to everything else. And also again he says, it is not that in a limited individual way, it is all pervasive. Vyapaka, alinga, it has no form or anything like that. If you know that, then jantuhu, the beings, they get amrtatva. So in this life itself, you realize that you Jivan Mukti, what they call, you go beyond all this differentiation and kind of realize the highest. न सन्दृशे तिष्ठति रूपमस्य न चक्षुषा पश्यति कश्चनैनं हृदा मनीषा मनसा विकृप्तो एयत् विधिरमृतास्ते भवन्ति. So the cosmic self is not an object of our vision. न सन्दृशे तिष्ठति रूपमस्य. This is not revealed. It's not the object of vision. न चक्षुषा पश्यति. No one can see it by his eyes. Since he is not an object of vision, since he is not an object at all, so no one can see it with eyes. Eyes can see only objects. But it reveals itself in the heart. Shrida Manisha Manasa Vikripto. When the mind is pure and constantly thinks of it, Manasa Yeyetat Vidir Amritaste Bhavanti, having realized it, one becomes immortal. So the cosmic self is not perceived by the senses. It's very clear because it has no connection with the Anatman, or that is body and indriyas, etc. These are all perishable, ephemeral, anitya, for a limited purpose only. So that which is beyond all that has no such connection, etc. Obviously, it is not going to be seen by that. So it says it will be revealed, in the heart only when when the person is pure. Normally only by the pure intellect. The buddhi has to be purified, shuddhikaran. Thakur Sambar says, Shuddha buddhi, Shuddha atma, Shuddha mon yak. Mind and buddhi also, actually they are all part of the mind stuff only. They are different aspects. In a sense, you can combine them also. But still as a finer distinction, buddhi is separate from mind. But overall, they all form part of what is called the mind stuff. Man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar together. So, only when the mind is pure, it can see that. So, the Shuddhata, first of all, it is not that the sharp intelligence which we use in the world to achieve results, to achieve our success, achieve so many things, that's all not spoken of. If you really have that buddhi, which is ekagra buddhya visa, what is that? That which is, totally focused, complete. Well, how do you determine the level of the buddhi, all that? Its ability to grasp. The way it grasps things only, its capacity. Then how the buddhi's quality is determined. So its ability to even understand the subtlest of the truths and do accordingly. So similarly, here when it is realized where buddhi means what? It is nothing it's nothing to realize or nothing to get or nothing to reach or anything. When the buddhi becomes very sharp and at that level, then completely removes all the obstacles. When all the obstacles are removed, that becomes completely self-revealed. There is nothing to stop it. So then in the next talk it says, Yada panchavatishtante jnanani manasa saha buddhischa vicheshtati tamahu paramangatim. 5 organs stop working. Now he's saying how does it happen? How does the buddhi go to that level where it is able to kind of grasp, or how it is revealed to the buddhi? When yada panchavatishtante jnanani manasa, 5 organs have stopped working, having merged with the side. Buddhischa vicheshtati, intellect who has retired from birth, tamahu paramangatim, states called as being the highest spiritual state. That is, the indriyas have, we saw in the evolution, indriya, objects, indriya, mind, buddhi, then atma. So indriyas have completely stopped, they have merged with the mind. And the buddhi also, mind is completely merged with the buddhi. So when the buddhi has also stopped from any other activity, the normal functioning, etc. In such a mind, such a buddhi, then although it is possible, it's a very highly evolved state, in such a buddhi is able to grasp this ultimate truth. Then here, so in the very important sloka, he says really, kind of, you can understand what is the kind of difference between yoga and Brahmajnana. I think in this sloka we got some idea. Tam yogamiti manyante stiram indriya dharanam apramatsa tada bhavati yogo cha prabhavapyayo. See, tam yogamiti manyante. According to the yogis, stiram indriya dharana. When all the indriyas are complete at rest is called yoga. When nothing, none of the indriyas function, the mind is completely at rest. That is according to Kodan. So, apramatsa tada bhavati yogogi prabhapayo. In that state, a yogin does not make a mistake, is not attracted by sense pleasures because he is one with the self, but yogi state may have its fall just as its raise. That's why you have to be apramatta. You should not give rise to carelessness when you get. So what is that? You see, in yoga also, according to Yoga Sutras, chitta vritti nirodha, complete cessation of all the vrittis is yoga. So yogi in that state, he completely stops all the vrittis, etc. When he practices like that, that initial arurukshar munir yogam karmakarana uchati yogarusya tasya samakkarana uchati. When you are aruruksha, when you are claiming the path of yoga, you should not give rise to any pramata, any carelessness, any indulgence, any this way, that way. One has to be absolutely careful. Otherwise, you can easily come down with that state. But then when you has reached samakkarana uchate, there nothing attracts. Such a person is completely free from all distraction, all idea of pressure, etc. So that what, even if you do some sadhana, it's not enough. We cannot take it for granted. One has to be always careful and all that. But then it says, in that condition, when the mind is completely rest, etc., there are no vrittis. And if you ask yogi, said, what is a Brahmajnana there? That is it. When the mind is completely at rest. So, but then the Vedantins don't accept that as enough that way. Because ultimately, Shuddha Man, Shuddha Buddhi, when the at least finely refined mind, it has to progress to a certain stage, then only that ultimate knowledge is revealed. So here there is a small distinction. Maybe in the languages there is used, although finally the ultimate stage all might be one and the same only, we do not know. But then here they make this distinction because if the mind and buddhi, etc., are completely null, there is nothing, there is no vritti at all, then there will be absolutely even the removal of the ignorance, etc., of the highest level, that is not be possible. So the Vedantis say that you can remove all other vrittis, but the Brahmakara vritti should be there. So even when the mind is quietened to a very great extent, if the Brahmakara vritti is there, with that you proceed in all the avaran, all the coverings of the Atman, which hide from its revelation. When they are all removed, when the Atman is completely, when it shines, at that time the Brahmakara vritti also merges there. So there is no independent. So that nothing is revealed to the Brahmakara vritti. It is not the revelation. Normally in the Ghatakara vritti, the Ghata is revealed separately because the Abhasa Chaitanya reflects itself there and through that is seen. But in Brahmakara vritti, it does only the function of removing all the surrounding obstacles. साधारण क्या है, हम सब जब देखते हैं घट हम लोग का देख पा रहे हैं, अनुभव हो रहा है, लेकिन ऐसे ब्रह्मन का कोई अनुभव नहीं होता है. ब्रह्माकार वृत्ति आपका ले जाएगा करके संपूर्ण रूप से ब्रह्मन का जो उसका घिरा के रखा वो सबको साफ कर देगा. Then when Brahman is revealed, that Swayam Prakash, the Brahmakara vritti also merges there and loses its complete independence. So the Shuddha Buddhi of the highest order is also merged. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma, Shuddha one, they are one and the same, he says. So that way there's a small distinction. So the Vedantin say that till the end that has to be, you cannot, even if you say that quieten the mind, indriyas, etc., you cannot make it completely vritti sunya. You can keep away all other vrittis, but this vritti, this Brahmakara vritti, has to say, that is one argument. Then, Naiva vachana manasa pratum shakyona chakshusha astiti bravato anyatra katam tat upalabhyate. So, Brahman is beyond speech and thought. Naiva vacha manasa praptam cannot be obtained by speech or mind, etc. That's there are many other utterances also. Edo vacho nivattante aprapya manasasa. So manasa and vacha, it is not possible. Na chakshusha. So, cannot perceive it. Here chakshusha means representative of all indriyas. It is not indriya gochar nahi. It is not cannot be experienced. इंद्रिय माध्यम में उसका अनुभव करना संभव नहीं है. मन की तरफ संभव नहीं है, वाक की तरफ संभव नहीं है. देन अस्तीति, अस्तीति, इट एग्जिस्ट इति ब्रुवतः सम पीपल अन्यत्र कथम तत् उपलभ्यते. How can it be demonstrated others who are non-believers? So, that's why he said, finally, as again we said, there are various kinds of pramana. The biggest pramana from man is Shastra pramana. Shastra is again the realization of extraordinary people. So from that only, otherwise, when you start the journey, what else is there? Kyunki it is not pratyaksha nahi hai, then it is not upama nahi hai, it is not, cannot be compared. So you cannot say, oh, you saw, oh, you have Himalayas. Acha, it is like that mountain. Oh, this speed, it is like that. So through comparison one can get some idea. Like Brahman की तरह दूसरा कोई वस्तु नहीं है ताकि आप बोल सकते हैं Brahman उसी तरह. And प्रत्यक्ष तो नहीं है, because it is beyond the indriyas, beyond the mind, speech, etc. So all these are all ruled out. So one is there, anumana you can guess, because if you do everything, क्योंकि आपका our daily life, जैसे in many parts of the day we find that the indriyas are completely shut. Mind is also shut. Yet we feel that there is something beyond. Although we are not experiencing it, हम लोग का अनुभव नहीं हो रहा है, लेकिन पता होता है, अनुमान होता है, इसकी पर भी कुछ है. Because what is it that makes you come back from sleep, from everything, from dream, so all that. So there is anuman. Along with anuman, shabda praman, that is shruti praman. Whatever you hear from great shrutis, etc., there it is clearly said that how people of extraordinary, that dhira bhakti, how they have realized. So based that is what we can understand. So if a person has no shraddha, a person is not a sadhaka, he does not believe in all that, so obviously, such people cannot have access to this, cannot be convinced. साधारणतः if people come and say that आप इतना आश्रम जाते हैं, आप क्या देखा भगवान के, आप ठाकुर के देखा? What would you say? नहीं, मैं नहीं देखा, लेकिन मैं जानता हूँ बहुत लोग मेरे पहले जो साधक थे उनका ठाकुर के दर्शन हुआ. They have all seen, many others have seen. So based on that, I also see that the world is unreal. जगत में कुछ नहीं है, आप क्या करते हैं? So we can, only that much we can say. If anyone challenges, we cannot say that we have seen God. So we have no proof that way. Similarly, for those who are non-believers or something like that, for them there is, we cannot really prove by our any argument or anything. No. So, अस्तीति एव उपलब्धव्यः तत्वभावेन च उभयोः अस्तीति एव उपलब्धस्य तत्वभावः प्रसीदति. First and foremost, one has to have the realization that the cosmic self exists. Astiti upalabhyasya tattva-bhavena cha ubayoho. Next, one must realize the true nature of that. Asityev upalabdasya tattvabhava prasidati. There is those are the conviction. Comics will be those who lack that conviction, the self will reveal itself to the former. So, here it says, first of all, the idea, it has to be realized in the sense that the deep conviction about the truth, about the ultimate. Then, later, a true nature has to be realized through sadhana. First, you start on a premise. In fact, many of the scientific discoveries are also on some premise only. They don't just simply start without aimlessly they don't start. Any research, you may end up discovering something, but every scientific research has a premise. So, with the idea of this, they start. So, similarly, you can start with the idea from the Anumana and Shabda Pramana, whatever you have heard. We can start the journey, but then one has to do sadhana and realize the truth. Tattvabhava prasidati. It reveals itself in its true nature. So the intellectual conviction is beginning only, but then one has to put in tremendous effort, then only one can get the ultimate knowledge that way. Yada sarve pramuchyante kama yeshe hridisritaha ata mrityo amrito bhavatyatra brahma samashnute. Yada sarve pramuchyante kama yeshe hridisritaha. When a person has all his heart desires destroyed, ata, then he amrito bhavati atra brahma samashnute. He attains immortality, becomes one, one with Brahman in this very life. Matyaha amrita bhavati. Mortal man becomes immortal. In this very life, Brahma samashnute becomes one with Brahman. So again and again, of course, same idea is being only stressed. But again, the importance here also is how one has to become free from desires. The triad, avidya, kama, karma. Ignorance leads to desire, desire leads to karma, karma leads to bondage, bondage leads to further avidya, further, like that. The cycle goes on endlessly. So, unless one completely, why Hridisrisratha? Because Hridaya is supposed to be the place, origin of all emotions, desires, everything. It is the heart. So, from the heart, one has to, बोले ना, मैं हृदय से आपको आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ. All feelings, emotions, etc., desires. Heart is the seat of all that. So, one has to work completely, rid oneself of all these desires, etc. Only then one can have that kind of can qualify. Then if one see what is that, how does one get rid of all desires? It is just by imagination, it will be something like that. For that only all the sadhana. See, when you do intense sadhana, Shravan Manan Nididhyasan, or whatever it is, all those sadhanas, what do they say? And through all that you know the real nature of Brahman, you know the unreal nature of the world. Then you say all your desires, etc., are unnecessarily pulling you. You are getting caught. आप सब तो फंस जाते हैं, धीरे धीरे समझ पाते हैं. Then आप वासना सबको छोड़ सकते हैं, मुक्त हो सकते हैं. So when all those are gone, finally, only then, when the hridaya is completely free, chitta shuddhi, इसके कहते हैं ना, chitta shuddhi. So it can be by any ways, then only one can go to the higher level. Then, ida sarve prabidhyante hridayasyeha grantayah atamrityu amrito bhavati etavat anushasanam etavabdya anushasanam etavat. What is that? When in this very world the mind gets rid, sarve prabidyanti hridayasyeha grantayah, begins to feel as if one message of the Vedanta scriptures, there is nothing higher than this. In this world, when hridayasya sarve grantayah, the twists and turns of the mind, actually all the problems are supposed to be like a granthi, like a knot in the hridaya. Huh? Vidyante, granthi, siddhyante, sarva sangsheha bole na. So when the knots of the heart, they are cut asunder, all the doubts vanish. So why? Because see, there are all kinds of doubts. However much you hear, however much you again and again read and all that, still we are again and again pulled down by the idea, I am the body, I am the mind. Again and again we get installed. So much of resolutions people make, I will never do this, I will never do this. And the very next day they come and do the same thing. Because that one-pointedness, the dridhata. So although whatever one might hear, the ability to pursue it very doggedly, in a very serious and sincere way, that is not there for most of the people who try to take to spiritual life. So unless one completely goes to the full distance and does intense sadhana that way, the doubts, because they keep on persisting, they keep on till they actually, because you see why? Because when in spiritual life we try to grasp which is atindriya through the indriya. The spiritual life, the highest is something which is beyond the senses, beyond all that. That's what we have read again and again. But how are we trying to understand? Trying to understand through the senses. Initially it is not possible. The senses have to be refined. And buddhi, everything else, when Shuddha buddhi, when it comes to that level only, that grasp is possible. That too we saw how it happens. So initially, again and again, one is assailed by doubts, assailed by all those things consistently. So, so that is the message of the Vedanta scriptures is, there is nothing higher than this. This is the message, because the feel is immortal. The feeling that one is immortal, one is beyond body, mind, etc. One has no bondage, one has no rebirth, one has no sukha dukkha. All those things, when it come, they are called, the immortality or the highest level of realization. Then, of course, it's a very Satan chaika chay hridesya nadya tasam murdhanam abhinishraitika tayordvayan amrtatpameti vishavatanya utkramane bhavanti. See, there are 101 veins, nadis connected to the human heart, they say. There are 100 nadis. Out of that, 100 nadis of one type. One nadi is different. One nadi is a sushumna nadi, which straightly connects it to the head, murdha, in Sahasrara. So when the departed, when the self, when it goes out of this, Jivatma goes out of this, then only it attains the highest immortality, etc. Otherwise, through the other nadis, if it goes to various lokas, human birth, or even subhuman, all that is possible. That's why, in a very, very rare type of sampradayas, when the sannyasin wants to give up the body, they use a coconut to break that Brahmarandra. It's called Brahmarandra. So that the exit happens that way. They go even that far. Because they know if it goes through that nadi, there is no rebirth, there is no coming back. So, but of course through great sadhana, by those physical methods, obviously it is not possible to break that Brahmarandra. It is through intense sadhana. When you do sadhana of the highest level, when you reach that, then obviously it is possible to get that kind of a exist. Now again, finally he... Yeah, there are Ida and Pingala, only that Sushma unknown goes to the highest. Then again, what is said earlier, he reiterates again. Now again, Prabhupada is coming, because after that there is only one more sloka, just to Falashruti, something like that. So he says, Angushta matra purushantaratma sada jananam hridaye sannivishtaha tvam swas sharirat prabrihen munjadi Munjadi Veshikam Dhairyena Tam Vidya Shukram Amritam Tam Vidya Shukram Amritamiti. Know it to be pure and immortal, know it to be pure and immortal. When he says twice, it's for emphasis. Now what is that? In the heart, Angushta Matra, size of Angushta, is in the Hridaya. Already we saw once. Again, same thing. So, this Purusha, this self, is the size of Angushta, is in the heart. In the deepest is the heart. Where it is, one can't find it because it is covered and it's also in a very deep level, they say. Then, Sada Janana Hridaya Sannivisha. The hearts of all, sub Janana. So, this has to be, I don't know, they say there's a particular grass called munja. Its stem is there, it is surrounded by that leaves, etc. To take out that stalk, one has to very carefully remove all those leaves. So, in the same way they say, patiently one has to separate this Atman from body. There is no physical, it's not physical. Through your sadhana, through your discrimination, through your understanding, by refining the man, buddhi, etc. ऐसा सब साधन करते करते आपका बुद्धि का शुद्धता प्राप्त करके तब आप, क्योंकि ये आत्मा सबको हृदय में ये अंगुष्ठ इसकी तरह इस साइज में अवस्थित है. बट ये क्या है, वैसे एक तरीका, एक मुंजा, एक घास है, उसके बीच में जो स्टेम कैसे उसके निकलते हैं, द अदर लीव सराउंडिंग टू वेरी केयरफुली रिमूव. धैर्य, क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है चट जल्दी हो जाएगा, एक दिन में हो जाए. यू हैव टू वेट, यू हैव टू डू sadhana again and again for a long time. It's all possible. But then one has to have tremendous patience because it's a long drawn battle. There is nothing like, no one can set any time limit. Kitna din mein ho jayega, it's not a capsule or it's not a short course or anything like that. It can take long time. So by again and again, by discrimination, by viveka, vichara, by other disciplines, when the mind becomes fine, buddhi becomes, through all that slowly, because it's impossible to get rid of the idea I am not the body. We are constantly, again and again fooled by the idea we are the body, we are the senses. But उसका आप अतिक्रम नहीं करने में आपका आत्मज्ञान प्राप्त नहीं होगा. So to know the Atman, one has to separate it. One has to separate oneself from the idea that I am the body, I am the mind. So that's a very difficult task. It has to be done very carefully. बहुत धैर्य के साथ करना पड़ता है, खूब धीरज से. Then this is the pure and immortal cosmic scale. Tam vidyat shukram amritam, tam vidyat shukram amritam. Know that to be the supreme, pure and immortal. That self which is the highest. Now, there's a very interesting incident because that's what, it's not Nayamatma Parvachanin Labhya Namedya Bahuna Shrutena Yame Vaishya Vrinati Tenya Labhya. So, in our, many of you would be knowing, it's good to connect that incident. Once in Kashi, Latu Maharaj and our Shuddhananji was very brilliant, very brilliant. Swamiji chose him to write the rules. And he told him that there should not be anything negative there. Shuddhanji wrote so beautifully. There's nothing negative in the rules of Swamiji. So, both of them went to listen to a great Pandit's Upanishad Vyakhyan. Latu Maharaj तो अनपढ़ा आदमी है, अक्षराभ्यास भी नहीं हुआ. Thakur tried to teach him the alphabets, he failed. Then, when the Pandit explained this verse, Angushtamata Purushottaratma Sada Janana Hridaya Sannivishtaha, simply Latu Maharaj jumped up. बोले सुधीर, पंडित ने ठीक नहीं बोला, पंडित जी ठीक बोला. Then he was, because immediately it resonated with his own experience. He has not read anything, he could not, no question of reading. But he was such a realized soul. Sudhir, Panditji ne ठीक कहा. Shuddhananji was called Sudhir otherwise. So then, वापस आ रहे हैं. Sudhir Maharaj was going ahead. He was showing the way and Lati Maharaj was just behind. बीच में रोक, सुधीर, पंडित ने आज ठीक कहा, पंडित जी ने ठीक बोला आज. Again and again. Then they went home, went to the ashrama. All have retired. At 1 o'clock, कोई आके सुधीर के घर दरवाजा खटखटा रहे. Somebody is knocking at the door. Who is knocking at 1 o'clock? You open. Lati Maharaj standing. Sudhir, Pandit ji ne aaj theek bola. Pandit ji ne aaj theek bola. His face was glowing because he was he had truly realized the state, what is Atman. So obviously, he was in ecstasy because exactly whatever was his experience, the Pandit's words exactly tallied. So he could not sleep. From that entire time, that was only thing that was resonating within him. And at night, 1 o'clock or 12:30 or so, he comes and wakes up Sudhir to say that Pandit ji ne theek kaha. So that's what, in some other Upanishad is there somewhere else. I think in Taittiriya, ha-wu, they go to such a state of ecstasy. And so, finally he says, Mrityu proktam nachiketot labdhva vidyametam yoga vidim cha krishnam brahma prapto virajo bhut vimritya abhut vimritya vimritya anyopyayam yo vidat atmameva. See, thus received from death the knowledge of Brahman. नचिकेता वहाँ से उन्होंने प्राप्त किया. मृत्यु प्रोक्तम नचिकेतो अतः लब्ध्वा. मृत्यु said and Nachiketa listened, got it. Labdhva, he got it. Not just listen, labdhva, he got that final knowledge. Vidyam etam yoga vidim cha krishnam. That is Brahman, his own self, as is the knowledge of the practices, etc. Here yoga means you can take as practices, kya karna hai, sab kuch. Knowledge of Brahman and the whole of yoga vidincha. Brahma prapto virajo vimritya. Becoming, this helped him to attain union with Brahman, Brahma prapto, and become pure and immortal. Viraja, there is no raja, no impurity. Become absolutely pure and absolutely immortal. Anya apiya, similarly, adhyatmam evam vid, who attains such knowledge, he also realizes, he also gets Brahma prapti, and he also gets the same state, or he also attains immortality, etc. So, that is the completion of the Kathopnishad. Kenisheda mantra. Sahana bhavatu sahano bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So final questions. Another 15 minutes is there before tea. Whatever you want to ask, you ask. Then uske baad we have some small.
Thank you for the very amazing and wonderful class. It was really beautiful. Thank you for the class. It was beautiful, very well explained, short and brief. Coming to my question now, today whatever we spoke now, it sounds all about Purusharat in terms of my effort has to go to enhance the knowledge more and more. So in all this process, what is the role of grace?
Yeah. See, Advaita में ये grace नहीं मानते हैं. आप you yourself have to be your source of grace according to Advaita. But as sadhakas in our life we combine everything. Particularly आप ठाकुर की परंपरा में आए, आपको तो सब कुछ समन्वय होना चाहिए जीवन में. इसलिए कई लोग अद्वैत में ये बहुत बड़ा है, खतरनाक है. थोड़ा बुद्धि से समझ के सोचते हैं मेरा ज्ञान हो गया. ज्ञान होता नहीं है. Mother also says that you may do everything. Generally there is also ये भी कहावत है, आपका बहुत ही प्रयास करना है. प्रयास करके तब आप समझ पाएंगे, अपना प्रयास से नहीं होगा. That is what the bhakti schools and others say, that you can try as much, but ultimately विदाउट गॉड्स ग्रेस, भगवान की कृपा के बिना नहीं होता है करते. सो यू डोंट वरी. सी ये क्या है, आप एक दूर तक आप चले जाएं. बिकॉज cutting rid of vasanas, fighting our this thing, understanding all that, वो बुद्धि की शुद्धता तक तो प्रयास के अंदर रहता है. लास्ट माइल जो वहाँ से जो ब्रह्माकार वृत्ति लेके वहाँ पहुँचना, उस समय आपसे आप आ जाएगा. सी यू मे कॉल इट ग्रेस, call it your own inner self. See, Thakur also says, ultimately your own inner self is the Guru. आपकी अंतरात्मा, आपकी शुद्ध आत्मा, वही आपका गुरु है. In that sense, who is the God, who is the person who is giving the grace? It's also your own शुद्ध आत्मा. So हम लोग का जो अंतिम जो कदम जो है, उसके बारे में अभी इतना सोचने की जरूरत नहीं है. हम लोग जितना खुद से जितना कर सकते हैं, मन की शुद्धता, वासना शून्य होना, बहुत प्रयास करना, स्मरण मन निधि साथ बहुत करना. If you do all that, then either through your ishta, either through this thing, and some source are there, it will automatically come. Because no sadhaka goes unrewarded. आपके करना चाहिए, then बाकी किसी वक्त हो जाएगा. आप उसके जिस नाम दे सकते हैं, आप बोलें भगवान की कृपा, बोलते नहीं मेरा शुद्ध आत्मा से प्रकट हुआ, वो भी ठीक है. So at that time it's only a question of nomenclature. The last mileage, that's something, because there's a still, even in this method, there's a small bit of doubt, how that Brahmakara vritti, it merges, it's only little they're trying to say. It's not that, that's not foolproof, or it's not that logically 100% sound. Because, there cannot be, unless there is vritti shunya, because vritti itself means it is within the realm of senses. So, but that is beyond senses. So, exactly that merger is not 100% clarified. Largely they say that. So, आप उतना दूर तक, making the mind pure enough, ridding it of vasanas, doing all that as far as possible, go beyond the idea, I am not the deha, I am the indriya. All that करके आप जाने में किसी वक्त हो जाएगा उस समय. Yes, Niru ji.
In this, Maharaj, in this Advaita, where can we fit Sagun Brahman?
हाँ, सगुण ब्रह्मन वो सब बहुत ही नीचे स्तर की कहते हैं इन लोग.
Not at the Hiranyagarbha.
No, yeah, it's all, that level it's okay. Hiranyagarbha, Mahat, इस सब level में ईश्वरा, सगुण ब्रह्मन में ईश्वरा.
Yes.
There is even above that, अव्यक्ता अवस्था. Maya, same. Avyakta, Ishvara, Maya, all that are different names and different schools, that's all. Saguna Brahman is of that.
Brahmakar vritti be thought of as Sagun Brahman?
No, Brahmakara vritti is not Saguna. Vritti is vritti only, in the mind only.
No, but when we think of Sagun Brahman, that has the form.
No, there is no, see, there also, that's what, see, vritti itself means the ability to segregate and separate. दूसरी से पृथक करना. बहुत सारी वृत्तियाँ अंदर हैं. So, this has to be completely separated. This knowledge, this realization that this is this. So, with that you proceed. Similarly, the Brahmakar vritti also is a specific idea, specific vritti jnana about the ultimate. So that it is surrounded by all that, it is completely concealed. So the Brahmakara vritti goes to remove that surroundings. The dakhiva cheez ka, what is the obstructing it. Then Brahmakara vritti becomes one with the Brahman itself. So this, see, each hierarchy has a different setup. इससे से आप 1 to 1 ऐसे ही आप इक्वेट नहीं कर पाएंगे. इससे से उसका कोई इक्वेशन नहीं. Yeah, Viveka is, Viveka, we are at every level, even at the level of the mind, constantly we can do that. But vritti is at a even subtler level, where that particular thought that is developed, and from that you get that. Viveka is generally about anything. whether to eat this or not, whether to go here or not, whether it is spiritual or unspiritual, whether it's nitya or anitya. So this is more at the existential level. इवन स्थूल अवस्था में वो फिर भी सूक्ष्म से जाके ब्रह्म का तो बहुत ही सूक्ष्मतम आइडिया में वो ब्रह्माकार वृत्ति ऐसा बारे में हम सोच सकते हैं.
So when in our daily life, in waking state, we are dealing with the transactional world. So I am dealing with the physical universe, and at the same time I am dealing with the subtle universe. Because what I am listening from physical universe, it's going to my mind and having some vrittis. So in every moment, the gross universe is getting merged with the subtle universe, and subtle universe is getting into the physical universe. What I am thinking, I am doing.
Yeah.
So where is the interface? Is there any boundary between the two?
No, actually, there is no really you cannot segregate these two at all. They are so closely interacting with each other. They're almost like they are, just as, in science you sometimes you put an equation both ways is something like that. It can be, because, in fact, even everything can be argued as gross. Even mind is also in that sense is an object. Buddhi is also in the object means they are all gross only that way. Then here also there are many things considered sthula, sukshma. So it's a very highly intermingling universe both ways. So only thing is, together all these to be segregated from the ultimate, that is Atman. That is the goal. We should keep all these totally away from that ultimate. Whether it is the body, the mind, the whole gamut of things below that, all have to be kept separate on one side and Atma on the other side. That is sadhana.
So when we say vritti, Brahmakar vritti, so vritti is also in the buddhi.
Yeah, very highly refined buddhi at the time.
All this would still be in the indriya, buddhi, antahkara.
No, yes, you see, it's all part of that. But then the refinement is taken to such an extent that it is largely very pure. There are no desires, vasanas. Only with all that background only you can go to that level.
So when one leaves the Brahmakar vritti, does one come to realize that?
No, in that, the Brahmakar vritti, when it's pursued, it leads to the removal of obstacles which obstruct Brahman. See, when you get Brahma Jnana, Atma Jnana, you don't attain or achieve anything, you don't get anything. What is that? When the obstacles are removed, Brahman, Swayam Prakash, it shines in its own glory. At that time, this vritti also merges there. That's why there is no separate. In the normal vritti, you clearly identify in Ghatakara vritti, the Gata, perception of the Gata is the result of that. Vritti does that shape, akar in the mind, akar. It gives that idea. Then the Chaitanya, the borrowed, the reflected Chaitanya, Abhasa Chaitanya, gives light to that, it is revealed as Ghata. But similarly, there is no revelation in the case of Brahman because no external Chaitanya is necessary, Atman itself being ever shining Chaitanya. So Brahmakar vritti, when removes the obstacles, because of that light of Atman, that glory, the Brahmakar vritti also is merged there. There is nothing separate as revelation or experience in that state except that oneness finally.
The person lives his life like
Yeah, no, that's what. See, there are again various ideas there. How long, unless there is a real reason for that person. Because then how he may, but he will be totally not connected with the world in that sense. His perfection, his functioning, etc., will be of a totally different order. He may eat, he may sleep, but then his connection, attachment with the body and mind will be totally absent there. He will just be like a leaf floating in the air. Just whichever way it goes, it has no direction, particular direction. Like, yes.
Maharaj, is this what Thakur says, Bodhe,
Bodhe, exactly that. Exactly that. Bodhe, Bodhova.
That is what.
Exactly the very word Thakur uses. Bodhe, Bodhova.
Can you explain this word?
Bodh means understanding. Understanding at the highest level. Bodhe bodh. Deeper.
बोध का बोध.
हाँ ऐसा.
Maharaj, one more thing. Thakur always says, now I don't know Bengali words, but what I have understood in English I can say, Advaita knowledge.
हाँ, अद्वैत ज्ञाने आचले बंदे जाइचा करो. See, once you have that knowledge, then you don't have to be worried about existential things at all. Jaicha karo means such a person does not do jaicha. See, is a person who is realized God, will he do anything immoral or unethical? No.
What is Jaicha?
Jaicha means जो मर्जी करो. तो जो मर्जी करने की बात ही नहीं है, क्योंकि ऐसा व्यक्ति कभी नहीं करेंगे. Because no, his world will be totally different. So the idea is, don't worry about other things. First get it. ये आप पकड़ लो. उसके बाद आप जो मर्जी करना कुछ भी नहीं है. लेकिन जो मर्जी means automatically he will be highly ethical, moral, ये वह सब कुछ आ जाएगा automatically. आपकी स्वतंत्रता है. मान लीजिए you are somebody entrusts you with their entire bank account, checkbook, आप रखो, there are billions of rupees. You won't draw even 5 rupees. क्योंकि आप इतना सच्चा आदमी है, आप 5 रुपया भी नहीं उठाएंगे. So it's like that. Yeah. So ब्रह्म
उठा भी लेगा तो he has some reason वो उठा के किसी को दे रहा है.
ना वो नहीं होगा. ऐसा व्यक्ति what I'm saying, दूसरे के आप कैसे उठा के देंगे? वो तो चोरी है.
नहीं, पर उसके लेवल पे तो सबका है ना.
नहीं, you don't confuse.
कुछ है ही नहीं उसके लेवल में.
आप
है ही नहीं ब्रह्म.
नहीं, आप दोनों का आप मिलावट मत करो, ये कोनो कंफ्यूजन करो ना. दिस इज नॉट लाइक दैट. आई एम सेइंग आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग टू ए ब्रह्मज्ञानी. आई एम सेइंग यू आर ए वेरी ऑनेस्ट पर्सन. किसी ने आपके बोला रखो आपके पास लाख रुपया, विल आप उसी से आप कुछ खर्च करेंगे? कभी नहीं करेंगे. लाइक दैट अ पर्सन वाज रियलाइज द हाईएस्ट, उनका जो स्वतंत्रता है लेकिन कभी नहीं करेंगे. उनका तो ऐसे करने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ेगा. बिकॉज व्हेन यू हैव रियलाइज द हाईएस्ट, व्हाट विल यू डू एनीथिंग लेस देन दैट? वही. यस नरेन. हाँ, कलियुग. No, there are people, extraordinary sadhakas. I know people who want nothing except God. Young, 40s, पति है, एक लड़का भी है, 12, 13, 14 घंटा जब ध्यान करते हैं, हिलते नहीं है. There are people. मिनिमम कुछ किसी वक्त 2-4 मिनट में पका लिया बस, दिन भर भगवान के लिए.
Swami ji, it's just that पढ़ के ही, बाकी तो I don't know much, but वो पढ़ के ही इतना अच्छा लगता है. तो बृहदारण्यक में याज्ञवल्क्य जी से कोहला पूछते हैं कि how does the enlightened man act? So he says whatever he acts, however he acts, doesn't matter, he is enlightened. So उनके लिए कुछ restrictions नहीं हो रहे.
ना, तो गीता में है ना, स्थितप्रज्ञ से का भाषा, तो गीता से पढ़ लो वो क्या करते हैं.
उनके लिए कुछ भी
वही देयर इट इज
he's
गिवन.
not answerable to anybody.
नॉट दैट्स व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. नो, उनके आंसर करने की जरूरत ही नहीं होगा. आप इतना सच होने में आपकी 1000 मौका है, आप कुछ भी नहीं चोरी करेंगे ना. लाइक दैट ए पर्सन हु इज रियलाइज द एक्सपर्ट डांसर डज नॉट टेक अ फॉल्स स्टेप बोलते ना. सो यू विल नॉट
Perfect dancer will never take a wrong
फॉल्स स्टेप ऑटोमेटिकली. आप डांस में इतना निपुण है, ऑटोमेटिकली आपके स्टेप्स ठीक ही होगा. यू विल नेवर, आप जैसे भी करो ठीक ही करेंगे ना. आई डोंट नो. सी, दूसरे की देख के आपका क्या फायदा है? बोलो, आपका करना है ना.
कि उनको देख के भी तो कुछ gain.
नहीं, जब किताब में इतना है. ठाकुर माँ स्वामी जी डायरेक्ट डिसिपल, सो मच. Bus tea, and after tea we'll have a small final session for just collecting your opinions, and then little formal some pranam or whatever it is, and then we can disperse.
Thank you, Swami.
Bas, katam.